Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here. This time reviewing on Wonder Woman issue 288 comic review. Now, as you know, this issue is meant to be based on the pre-crisis, which was meant to feature a totally different story from the post-crisis, the New 52 one, and DC Rebirth, and was also meant to feature the first appearance of the pre-crisis Silver Swan, and there had been two others during the post-crisis, like Valerie and Vanessa. And this cover mainly has Wonder Woman taking down some criminals, and one guy saying, "And this time, nothing will stop her." And the story mainly starts off how Wonder Woman rushes to see Steve Trevor, who is in hospital. And we see how Wonder Woman tries to, find where Steve is, and some people do get upset that she's not giving them autographs, even though this is like her wondering if Steve's okay, which points out about what happened with a suitcase with some important information, and how Wonder Woman was given a new costume by people for a charity event, and how she mainly helped the Amazons, and so on. We see her entering Steve's hospital bed, where they go to see how he is, and talk to the doctor, and she isn't sure if Steve will recover. But Wonder Woman is given some time to see how he is. But unknown to Diana, this Steve Trevor isn't from Earth 1, but instead from Earth 27E. And of course she says, "Oh, and one other little item, Steve Trevor. I love you." "Angel, is that you?" And realizes that Steve's okay, but lets him rest, and quickly heads off, trying to figure out what to do. And of course some criminals show up to try and rob a bank, but Wonder Woman shows up to try and take them, but of course they try to get away in their helicopter, which an unknown super known as Silver Swan shows up, and of course throws one of the gunmen away, and basically knocks away the plane, which Diana manages to use her lasso by landing it down in a fountain. And of course Silver Swan uses her beauty to attract the males, and of course says that she's here to help and that, and mainly flies away. And of course Wonder Woman goes off to find the briefcase that contains the information for the Pentagon, but realizes it's gone and has to head back. And of course she gets to the Pentagon, changes to her Wonder Woman identity, and sees Etta in that, who points out that General Darlin is wanting to see her. And of course General Darlin does say that he will keep Diana safe, and that if anything happens, he'll make sure to take care of the problem. We also see how Diana and Etta decide to go back to their apartment and find out they've got a new roommate, and that the rent's been increased by their landlord, and they meet Helena. So of course Helena has a suitcase, and we kind of see how Helena is meant to be, how she says, plain, and her talking about, it's okay to feel like the way you are and that. And we kind of see how Diana goes for a shower after Helena gives Diana the suitcase with the information. And we also see how Etta reassures Helena that her sits will go away. And we kind of see how Helena remembers back from her origin, how she was always a bit of an outcast. She was considered the ugly duckling, that her friends didn't want her family, and how when she got to the distance, everyone saw her potential. But we see how her manager and boss realize that she's not really pretty enough to be a ballerina, and says she dances well enough, but she's so, well, the word is scooping for is ugly. And so they decide to give it to someone else. So of course Helena cries out to the gods to ask why they hate her and that. So we see the sort of pre-crisis version of Ares before the blue armor, who talks about Helena's origin, of where she's really from, and offering her to give her powers. And we see how she becomes Silver Swan, and that her task is to destroy Wonder Woman, who she hates. And we see how Eleanor is quick to use her powers for a test run, and Ares basically hoping she'll do what she's meant to do. So, and even remembers how she found the briefcase that contains the information, and how she put together that Diana and Wonder Woman are one and the same, and becomes Silver Swan. So of course, Diana goes back into her Wonder Woman costume and heads off back to the Pentagon with the information, and Silver Swan follows. And of course, Diana quicks to think why she's following her. Of course, this leads out to an all-out battle between the two supers, and gives the suitcase back. But Diana is basically beaten down so easily, even the army are amazed that she's able to hold her own. So Silver Swan uses her swan cry on Diana, and they say, "Ah, the sound! It's beautiful, and it's so painful inside my head." So of course, Silver Swan uses her powers to manipulate the men again, and let her give off with a pass. So we see how Steve's doctor is talking to someone about moving Steve, and turns out it's Dr. Psycho. And of course, this is the story. So the first appearance of Silver Swan isn't great. It just feels like they needed to give her a boring, bland, and generic origin. You could have had it that Helena's heart was broken by a man that she loved, who found a better dancer. This just feels like something I would read in Black Swan, and this is from Roy Thomas, the same guy who did Captain Carrot and other great stories. This isn't one of the best. So I think this issue deserves a thumbs down. It's not great, not interesting, and it feels like the origin to Silver Swan is basic, and not one of the best. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.